Hi guys, Dahlia Burroughs here, freelance editor and aspiring author, and I've been asked a few times about what my life looks like as a freelance editor and wannabe author. Now, because I stay home in order to do my work, I don't have to leave my home, so I'm fairly lazy and I'm wearing my pajamas. Don't judge.
In other words, the Death Note is the bond between light, the human, and Ryuk, the Shinigami.
So my day typically starts with a hot chocolate or some sort of herbal tea and some Vegemite and peanut butter toast. Yes, together, and if you haven't tried it, you should, because it is amazing. And I have that pretty much every single morning. If I don't have that, I'll just have oats. I try to break up my work day between work and personal stuff, so if I want to write, I can go ahead and write, because technically I guess that is business stuff, because eventually it will be published. So because my laptop doesn't stay on because it's broken, I unfortunately cannot work on my laptop, so I can analyze sample edits, but I have to do it on my phone. And I'm still waiting for my new laptop to arrive, and I ordered that late last month, and I'm not happy about it. So you won't see too much editing, but what I tend to do is spend from about 9 a.m. until midday, until lunchtime, editing a client's work. And if I'm particularly backed up with orders, I will work the entire day on an editing job. If not, then I'm free to do some writing, and today that's just what it is. I don't have any editing jobs particularly that I can do, and I don't have to study. I've got a whole month of studying, so it's time to get down to business and do some writing. Oh, and I also want to mention that today I'm going to be working on a secret non-fiction project. And I've heard this a lot around AuthorTube, that everyone's working on a secret non-fiction project, but it's secret for a reason, because currently it's still in the research phases, and I've been researching it for years, but that's beside the point. Now I'm starting to get into different research, so I don't want to give too much away, but please sign up to my newsletter if you want to know more, because that's where I'm going to be giving away information about the secret project. And also, subscribers to my newsletter have the opportunity, once it's released, to win a free copy of this non-fiction project. Now, of course, right now you don't actually know what it's about, so don't sign up to my newsletter just because you want a free book, because the book may not be for you at all. But that's the best way to get information on this project. So if you want to sign up for future news about it, or you know, the struggles that I have with it, because I'm struggling a little bit, but yeah, sign up to my newsletter. And then if the book is for you, then, well, you could go into the draw to win a copy, or if you want it, you could give it away to a friend. I don't know, that's up to you. Let's move on. So I just want to point out that it's been about 3 to 4 months since I last looked at my 2018 NaNoWRIMO project. I started doing some developmental edits on it, and I've not even gotten halfway through, but I got a little bit frustrated with it because I changed my storyline so many times. So now I'm going back over the original outline that, the third outline that I made for the book, to see what lines up and how I can fix the issues that have been presented and what I need to then place at the start of the book so that it's all cohesive and actually makes any sense as a novel. But I just wanted to let you know that I have like a few different outlining methods when I write books. So I started outlining my first novel in, I think it was 2016, and that was the first time I'd ever outlined and the first time I'd ever finished a book properly that actually made sense. Since then, my outlining process has changed quite drastically. I tend to start with Dan Harmon's The Plot Embryo, which was made popular on AuthorTube by Rachel Stephen. So I will link her stuff below because it's really handy. And also Emily Bourne, who's a fantastic AuthorTuber, and she writes fantastic books. So I'll link her stuff below as well. But the plot embryo basically is a circle with segments in it. And you go through the segments to go through basically character changes and plot changes and all that sort of stuff. So I have a blog post on my website about that topic. I'll link that below as well. I'll just link all the things below. You probably know that by now and I can stop saying it. But from there I move on to the beats from Jessica Brody's Save the Cat. I originally moved on to Blake Snyder's beats, but obviously Jessica Brody has written Save the Cat for authors. So I then fit all those segments from the plot embryo into the beat sheet and work out my story from there, because you end up, well, me personally, I end up adding a few things and taking some of the things out. But the plot embryo is a fantastic way to get into the emotional, personal side of your character rather than focusing just on the plot and the plot elements. And then the beat sheet takes it a step further in refining those ideas. And then after that, I put it into the 3-act structure, which tends to get called the, I think Chatty calls it the 27 chapter outline or something like that. Anyway, but she's got fantastic videos on that as well. Oh, before I get too ahead of myself, I wanted to mention also that recently Bethany Artesada and Brittany Wang have done a series on Save the Cat, and they outlined a novel together with some suggestion from the viewers and everything, and I'll link their playlist below because it is a great way, it's very informative, and it's a great way to understand the beat sheet for what it is, because otherwise you could potentially get a little bit lost. But anyway, moving on. So then I go to the 3-act structure, and I find this to be my favorite because it's very specific. So you could write 27 chapters, and it would outline what each chapter would include until right to the very end. And it works on acts or worlds like the Save the Cat beat sheet, but I find it to be a little bit more specific, and that's kind of what I want for my outlines. This is a short outline, it was very quick. I refined my outline a day before NaNoWRIMO 2018 because I wasn't going to do it, and then I just thought, I think 3 days before NaNoWRIMO started, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Somehow I wrote 50,000 words, which is all here, and yeah, it's fast drafting and it's terrible drafting. The story is really bad. Oh, as an editor, I don't want to look at it. So I have to get my writer's goggles on to look at this damn story. It is terrible. But it showed me that I could write 50,000 words in a month. And that was a huge milestone. And realistically, I could have written more than that. But I didn't. So, you know, I just decided to get over the 50,000 mark, and I was like, okay, cool, well, that's great then. I didn't end up finishing the story because obviously it's got a lot more to it than just 50,000 words of dribble. So that was the annoying part. So that's why I'm going back and working on developmental edits now, because there's no point in writing the end of the book if I have to change all the stuff through the start, middle, and end after I've just rewritten it. So, you know. So outlining for me is a very aesthetically pleasing sort of thing, especially when I print it out and I get this lovely, lovely look. How easy is that to follow? That's all the segments there. Oh, sorry, that's the first 3 segments. The setup, conflict, resolution of the of Act 1. Act 1 setup. But I find that I can't write now without an outline. It doesn't happen. So outline it is. But I just had a thought. If you guys want to know more about the 3-act structure, I will be posting a video sometime in the near future where I've got it laid out in a PowerPoint, and then I just voice over and provide you all the information that is necessary. I feel like this is the best way to show it because it's visual. And I was thinking what I could even do is potentially outline like a pretend story for my demonstration. I don't know how I feel about that, but what do you guys think? Would you just want the outlining method and the explanation, or do you want an example of what could be outlined in the method? You let me know. It is now 12:30 and I'm going to have some lunch. So while I wait for my lunch to heat up, I just want to know, have you guys ever had Yorkshire puds? Or Yorkshire puddings? A few years ago my partner introduced me to them, and basically they're like savoury cupcakes that you put gravy on. They're English and they're delicious. So those little cupcake things that you saw in the bowl, they are modified Yorkshire puddings. Normally Yorkshire puddings actually have like a dip in them and you pour gravy in them, but my partner's family, and well, him as well, they're English, so I don't know, I suppose they like to do it a little bit differently. It puffs up instead. They still taste the same, but they're just like, they're little delicious savoury cupcakes. They're really yummy. So it's now 3 p.m. and I have done a bit of work on the secret project, but mostly I've actually I went back to fixing the Dominion because figuring out stuff for my new project helped me to realize some of the faults in the Dominion. So I think one of the major issues, apart from changing the plot throughout the novel, is the pacing and the places where everything has been written. So I broke into Act 2 way earlier than I ever should have. It pretty much happened straight after the catalyst, and there was no thinking there. The character was just like, okay, the catalyst has happened. I cannot return to Act 1, that world. So I'm not going to think about anything, and I'm just going to have to deal with being thrown into my new world. So that part of the outline is actually where the reader gets to know a little bit more about the character and how they behave and how they retaliate to certain situations. The character of the Dominion didn't react at all, apart from, oh my gosh, I've now lost the opportunity to do this, and what am I going to do? Oh, I don't even get time to ask that question because suddenly, here's the second world that I'm thrown into. This is exactly the reason why I like to flip-flop between different outlines, because it helps me to realize where things should be placed, rather than just using one outline and using the same outline for every single book that I write. It gives the reader a sense of difference, but also follows in a structure that they're used to. And the story ends up being more cohesive, so I think it's a win-win situation. So one thing that I really love about outlining is the fact that I get to know my story and my characters and their reactions and all that other stuff. I get to know it really clearly. And if you had told me about 6 years ago that you would now love outlining as much as you love chocolate, I wouldn't believe you. I would call you a liar and probably throw my book at you. But it's so true. There's nothing that gives me more clarity than outlining. And I know that I get stuck with outlining and I keep outlining my outline and then therefore keep outlining my books. But the more and more that I do it, the more I understand my character and the more characters, and the more I understand my story and why it's important. You good?
So that was my day, and now it's time to go to bed. Good night.